Digital transformation is an inevitable and irreversible phenomenon, be it in financial services or any other business. COVID pandemic has effectively pushed this agenda to the forefront. The urgency and the pace of transformation has drastically changed. Financial inclusion will probably undergo maximum change in this COVID era. It will be difficult to continue with old form of group meetings, manual due diligence processes, or cash-intensive operating models. The scale of digital transformation is growing exponentially. 1.5 billion UPI transactions in July is just one data point to support this claim. In the light of these developments, let's explore a few fundamental areas of inclusion from banking perspective. We have with us two very esteemed guests and key players in Indian digital finance ecosystem. Harjeet Toor, Head Retail Inclusion and Rural Business, RBL Bank, and Sanjay Jain, Partner, Bharat Inclusion Fund and Volunteer iSport. Harjeet is an entrepreneurial business leader with over 29 years of work experience, 27 of which have been in consumer banking across NBFCs and banks spanning Fullerton India, RBS, ABN AMRO, and Bank of America. He has worked in leadership roles across various functions in marketing, product management, sales, and distribution, branch banking, and finance. An engineer and a management graduate from Faculty of Management Studies, Delhi, Harjeet has built diverse market and client segment expertise across the country with an experience mix of both strategic thinking and frontline execution, delivering market share and profit growth for the organization. As business head of retail and rural and inclusive banking, his core responsibility is to establish a robust business across various customer segments in urban and rural markets, building stable and profitable asset portfolios with predictable and attractive returns. He is responsible for building a franchisee that addresses the financial needs of both the business and individual customer segments across different product categories, covering business loans, credit cards, home loans, microfinance, and agri loans. He also looks after the rural branch banking business. Welcome, Harjeet. Sanjay is a volunteer with iSport, a software product industry think tank. He has been one of the key contributors to help create and evangelize various government APIs, which are collectively referred to as the India Stack. These APIs have led to digitization of various processes, enabling them to go paperless, cashless, and presenceless. He is also a partner at the Bharat Inclusion Fund, Innovation Fund, which invests in early stage IP-driven companies, as well as those who are working to increase the formalization of the economy. The Bharat Innovation Fund is associated with CII of IIM Ahmedabad. During his career, Sanjay has been responsible for the development of many large-scale, high-impact systems. As a volunteer at iSport, he worked with NPCI to define the Unified Payment Interface. He was the Chief Product Officer at UIDAI. He was also responsible for the creation and launch of Google Map Maker, a crowdsourced mapping product that is responsible for Google Maps data across 170 plus countries, including India. Sanjay holds an MS in Computer Science from the University of California, Los Angeles, and BTech in Computer Science and Engineering from IIT Mumbai. Welcome, gentlemen. Before we start, thank you for joining us. Before we start, let us see how banking. This conversation is specifically focused on India Stack and inclusive banking, as we have the two stalwarts in both these segments. So let me start with Harjeet. Harjeet, RBL Bank is a modern bank and is one of the fastest growing. You are also in the forefront of digital banking. Could you provide an overview, a short overview of what is it that bank is doing to stay relevant and future ready?
Yeah, thanks, Ajay, and good evening to everybody. And thank you for having me on the panel. Actually, things are changing at such a rapid pace that I think if somebody is not thinking about constant change and trying to stay relevant, one would be left behind in a jiffy. Currently, I think what we're doing is largely looking at the changing customer behavior. And believe me, it changes every year to that matter. And COVID has only kind of accelerated some of the changes which we are seeing. And then trying to analyze the impact on banking. And once we've done that, I think the endeavor is to see how do we therefore change the customer journeys and experiences for customers while they're interacting with the bank. And today, the banking is not determined by just the bank players. I think you have so many platforms which are there, which are providing customers with some state-of-the-art ways to deal or interact with those platforms, that people have started expecting that from banking itself. And if banks don't quickly change and incorporate that, then they'll be history pretty soon. So I think, and not only us, I'm sure the top 5-10 banks in the country are all kind of stepping up their ante in doing this. We specifically are looking at the following areas. One is the existing customer interaction with the bank. And then this extends across service, cross-sell, the whole works. And then we recently, in this COVID era, launched the WhatsApp banking or chatbots, all necessitated by the fact that customers are not comfortable now coming to the branches or kind of interacting because of the pandemic. And therefore, how do you take this experience and make it seamless for them? So all these innovations, including a completely relaunched mobile app, etc., have all been brought in. Our new customer journeys are also being revamped in terms of how do we onboard customers. My mandate to the team is we need to reach a stage where we don't meet or interact with the customer physically, but are still able to onboard that. We've seen some success both in digital account opening and video KYCs has helped, as well as instant decisioning today for loans. Data analytics is another often widely used term, but I think the importance has just grown leaps and bounds, and especially use of alternate data, whether it comes from partners or it comes from your mobile phone, customer behaviors, the ability to be able to analyze that and take decisions, especially in environments like these, when there is a moratorium, the bureaus are not updated, is again an important piece. So net, I think we're reimagining almost all processes. And we believe that the only way to move forward and make a difference is the partnership route. And therefore, a lot of effort is going in strengthening our partnerships in the digital ecosystem. We are looking at partners who already are engaging with customers digitally, and therefore trying to see how do we embed the banking products within that. And these partners could be whether financial or non-financial, so it doesn't really matter. So yeah, that's maybe some of the stuff which we are focused on.
Yeah, fantastic, and can't wait to see as these things. I mean, I'm sure you already began the journey quite aggressively, and looking forward to see more to unveil as this story also unfolds. Sanjay, India Stack is truly a unique and revolutionary idea. Building an ecosystem, pushing for the equitable access to all the players has been in the center of this whole, the tectonic changes that we are noticing today, right? How do you think banks like RBL, given what Harjeet was saying, the developments happening at their end, who are probably in a better position, RBL to sort of benefit from the fintech innovations. The fintechs are probably in a better position to design, products, processes, or manage risk by exploiting the India Stack effectively than probably banks can, right?
Yeah, so thanks, Shashi. So in fact, I was just struck by Harjeet and he said that things are changing very rapidly. And the key, I think, view that we have, at least when you're looking at India Stack, India Stack, we started the journey with Aadhaar about 10 years ago. But about 5 years back, we were very clear that the first use case for a lot of the work that we do is in the financial sector. And that, putting the financial inclusion, the customer at the center of this journey and imagining what they need, led us to sort of design the set of APIs and things that we would build around it. So, I remember the talk we gave 5 years ago where we had the Rajni slide with all of the things in it. And it's taken us that long to build it. I think the things that changes the slowest is actually a regulatory environment and the legal structure. And then I think that constrains the banks, and the banks, of course, have a lot of things to deal with. But fintechs have this luxury of actually being at the edge of all this, and hence having the most freedom to move and react. And that, I think, the speed of reaction that is what then allows them to go innovate and so on. So in some sense, if you think of what fintechs do, is they reduce the distance to the customer. One is the physical distance. I mean, banks have branches and then, go out through agents. And what fintechs do is start to reduce that distance to the customer. The second thing, again, on a different kind of a distance, in terms of trying to get the product mix for, you can actually design a product for a smaller group of customers and you can customize it. So it's a target segment of one. And banks, of course, can't really do that so easily because they actually have to get almost everything approved through the regulator. And so they take the product distance away also. I mean, and as a product manager, I worry about that. Is my product right for the customer? And so fintechs work in these two ways to get the product to the customer. And they work in partnership with banks. So banks are, of course, a core fundamental financial institution in the country. And so all of this happens where the fintech is really taking that financial services and getting it to that customer in a way that then increases formalization. It starts to bring people into the system. So then there's more customers with the banks, there's more users, there's more money, which again flows through the formal channels. And all of that is then good for the bank as well. So if you sort of look at what a bank like RBL does, I mean, RBL has been great because they've opened up APIs, they work with many fintech partners so that all of this can happen, is that they benefit from this increased formalization and being closer to the customer, because that's what the bridge that fintechs have put together.
Yeah, that's incredible.